You are listening to Beyond the Wheel, a podcast about the people and ideas that drive the RV community forward.
Looking to get out there and stay out there? Battleborn Batteries lithium-ion batteries are here to power your RV, marine, and off-grid adventures. Designed as an easy drop-in replacement for traditional lead-acid batteries, these reliable solutions have 2 to 3 times the power, charge 5 times faster, are a fifth of the weight, and last 10 times longer. Offered in a variety of models in unique sizes and shapes, ranging from 50 amp hour to a robust 270 amp hour, and backed by a 10-year warranty. Battleborn batteries are built to fit your needs and power your experiences. On the road, on the water, and off the grid, reliable power is here. Check them out at battlebornbatteries.com.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Beyond the Wheel podcast. Today, we're doing a driver's edition, and we're going to talk a little bit about the state of the RV industry, but we also wanted to do a little bit of a recap of the Hershey RV Show. I attended 2 days of the show, Wednesday and Thursday, and I just wanted to kind of give my opinion of the show. And we got some facts to back up some of my opinions. Like the first day I was there, felt a little quiet, and we do have numbers to back that up. So without any further ado, let's get this episode started. Hey, Sean, how are you doing today?
I'm good, Kenny. I am excited to hear about the Hershey Show. Sorry I missed it this year. Very curious to hear your thoughts on how it went.
Yeah, I feel like the show, every year I have a good time at the show, if it's crowded or less crowded. This year was less crowded for Sabrina and I. We were there Wednesday and Thursday. Both those days felt slow to us, with Thursday being a little busier than the Wednesday. The numbers are in, and the show is a little smaller attendance-wise this year compared to last year, but not by like a huge amount. This year, the total numbers was 45,800 visitors, and that's for the entire show. Last year was 47,000, just about 1,500 people. The first day was 400 people less than the first day last year. I was surprised that I could notice that difference. Like, you're talking 400 people less out of a crowd. The first days usually bring in about 7,000 people. So I was surprised that I could feel that it was quieter. It felt actually much, much slower than just a 7% drop, which is what they're reporting. It was a 7% drop for that first day. Some of the things that might be playing a factor in there is that they actually made the show a little bit larger, took up a little bit more square footage than the previous years. And I believe they had a couple more units than previous years too. So that might be making it feel a little quieter. But that was the day that Sabrina and I enjoyed the most, because you weren't fighting crowds. Even like that food court area, where you go and you get food, that was easy. We were able to walk right up, order some French fries without having to stand in line. We were able to walk in any RV that we wanted to and take a tour of it without fighting people, or nobody's fighting anybody, without having to wait your turn to go in. Like, everything was kind of open and easily accessible for us to enjoy the show. And we just found it to be a really enjoyable show those first 2 days.
The two places I think get the most crowded, besides the popular RVs, is the food area, like you said, and then the top ring of the vendor area. I always feel like that's not enough space for all the people that attend the show.
Yeah, that's a good point that you just brought up. That top ring did still feel crowded in there, but not as bad as previous years. And I think that's, Sean, I think that's just a space thing. It's like a small quarter. If nobody's ever been there, think of like maybe if you went to a hockey game or a basketball game, the little corridors that you walk around the court. Once that gets filled with a lot of people, you're kind of channeled in different directions, and that does feel kind of tight in there. That area always feels like it needs more space or less vendors in that spot. Maybe they just need to remove some of them. I'm sure any vendors listening be like, nah, you can't remove us from that area. But because I know it's a good spot for them. I know they like being in there because, one, they're indoors. So no matter what the weather does, they're protected. And because they're indoors, they don't have to worry about the harshness of the sun. And there's some good food in there too. Like, I know they sell the Hershey ice cream inside that area. I think you can get popcorn in there. So I know it's a good spot for those vendors. But yeah, Sean, it gets tight. Even with the crowds being lower, that area was still kind of kind of cramped still. It's just a cramped area.
And there were a bunch of new releases at this show too, I think. Did you get to see any of the newly released RVs?
Yeah. So we got to see the Thrive. That's from Winnebago. That is their new travel trailer. And Sabrina and I both really liked that. We've been shopping for a travel trailer. We think we've decided not to go the travel trailer route at this time. We still enjoyed walking through it. We thought that looked really nice. We saw the all new Travato. We've always been a fan of Travato, but now the new Winnebago Travato is back on our radar again as maybe a possible RV that we would purchase. We took a Travato out. And time goes by so fast. It was over 2 years ago. We even stopped and saw you guys based on some of our feedback and other people's feedback from that version of Travato. Winnebago has made some updates that we're very happy to see. And you know what was really popular this year was small Class Cs. We went into a lot of small Class Cs that we liked, like 19-foot traditional Class C. I don't remember them being popular before, but there was definitely a lot this year. And it seemed like a lot of people were touring those RVs, and the price was right on them. We saw a lot of small Class Cs for about $60,000, and I feel like you get a lot of vehicle for your money. It has decent storage. It's roomy in the back. I'm comparing this to a van that may cost you, $200,000. For half the price, you're getting a lot more vehicle and still small, 19 feet. It won't fit a regular parking spot because it's so wide. But, if you would park it at the end somewhere of a lot and back in, I think you'd be surprised at where you could actually park that Class C. Easy time getting in any campground that you want it to, easy to drive and maneuver. We really like these Class Cs that we saw. And that seems to be, and we're going to talk about trends in a little bit, but I feel like this show, not just for their Class Cs, but also travel trailers, we saw a lot of small travel trailers. And I feel like this show was focusing on more solo and maybe just couples more than families. And I'm not 100% sure if that's a good idea because I don't know if that's really where the market is going. And I guess we can talk about that in a little bit too.
Yeah, and I guess you also, with the not feeling as crowded, you were able to have more discussions with the reps that were there as well.
And that was a great thing for us too. I mean, just like you and I like behind the scenes stuff, Sabrina likes behind the scenes stuff too. So yeah, we were able to take our time, talk to the different manufacturers and reps and salespeople. Everybody that we talked to did say, yes, the show's a little slower, but they felt like the people that did attend were shoppers. They weren't like your average looky-loo. They were interested in buying and they were well informed. Like when they were talking to the guests kind of already knew what they were looking for. They weren't looking for the salespeople to kind of show them around and show them what's out there. These were people that were coming to see something in particular. They knew what they were looking for. And these new shoppers also appreciate the technology, the new technology that's going in vehicles. I'm not saying new, and I'm going to wrap lithium batteries in there. You and I have had lithium batteries for a long time, but I feel like lithium is now becoming the mainstream. It's now becoming a standard in a lot of RVs where before it wasn't an option. And I think the new shoppers know more about lithium batteries now and the advantages of those lithium batteries. So overall, it was, I think, a really good show for the manufacturers and for the dealers.
Yeah, I did read that at the shows recently. People are saying, dealers are saying that people that are coming are well informed and already know the questions to ask and are very focused on what they want to see and what they're interested in as opposed to just browsing around.
Yeah. Yeah. And I spent a lot of time in the Winnebago booth. Sabrina and I do a lot of work with Winnebago. And just because I'm there, I cannot help myself from working a little bit, even though I wasn't there to work. The attendees that I would talk to, when speaking with them, I was able to notice that firsthand. They were asking me very specific questions. And I would say to them, well, I can go take you over here and show you a Winnebago Echo or a View Navion. And they would say, no, this is what now I already know, this is what I want. But I do have a couple questions about diesel or gas. Like they knew the floor plan that they wanted. They knew the size that they wanted. So they were really just kind of narrowing down their choices at this time.
Yeah, that's good of people to do their research, because if you go to a show without doing your research, you could wind up with a lot of stuff that you didn't necessarily want or need.
Yeah, and it kind of just wastes your time, a waste the dealer's time a little bit. I mean, that's what they're there for, so don't worry about too much on that, but it's really wasting your own time. Definitely do some research before showing up to any of these big shows because they can be easily overwhelming with just how many choices they have there. But I would also say, go in with a little bit of an open mind. I know when Sabrina and I first started shopping for an RV, we were really convinced that we would be fine. Sean, I don't know if you ever seen these travel trailers that have like the cloth pop outs. So it's all hard and then it opens up. I think one of them's called a roo. And we thought that was a fantastic idea. Little did we know though, like when we were full timing, that we would be in some pretty harsh conditions, like Erie, PA in the wintertime. I don't think that fabric, that soft pop out would have worked out too well in those situations. So luckily we continued to do our research. But it can be very overwhelming at the show. So definitely take some notes before you go, have it in your phone, do some virtual walkthrough tours so you know what you want to see. Because like I said, there's just so much to see at these shows. These shows I still think are a fantastic way to shop. And Sean, they were doing some really good show pricing this year compared to last year. You and I were there last year and we were not impressed with show pricing. But this year, like I said, Class C motorhomes for like $60,000. Like we didn't see that last year at all for any vehicle.
No, last year the prices were definitely much higher.
Yeah. So, you mix in a well-educated shopper with really good pricing. I'm confident that they did pretty good. Either they made a sale there or they probably got a pretty good lead on a future sale. And we got some quotes from some of the manufacturers that we'll share with you guys in a little bit too. But yeah, good prices. I would say, Sean, at the moment, the only thing that's really probably hurting sales would be the interest rates, right? Interest rates are still a little high, but for the most part, there's a lot of positives for buying right now. So if you are shopping for an RV and you wanted to buy, maybe now's the time. If you have cash, now's definitely the time to buy. And that's obviously the way that we recommend you, but I know that's not for everybody. But yeah, this is the cash. Now's the time to buy because these prices are looking good. And numbers for sales and everything, even though they're slow, they're coming back up already. So who knows how much longer these sale prices. I'm not trying to scare anybody, but you never know. Like this market is so crazy. Like we were expecting the market to drop in 220 and it did the exact opposite. So knowing that the numbers are down right now, sale prices are good, I think now's a good time to buy.
I think an RV just went by.
Yeah.
You mentioned quotes, and I think it was RV Business that had a whole article of reactions to the show from industry leaders, I guess we would call them.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them were really positive.
Yeah, really good positive quotes. They are from rvbusiness.com. When you guys are not listening to us and you want to keep up with the news, that's who we recommend you guys turn to because they're like a no nonsense. They're not a clickbaity site. They are like, what would you say? Just like true, not detectives, just true reporters. In fact, I was at the Overland Expo not too long ago and they had a reporter there taking notes, taking photos, talking with people, trying to get quotes. Like they're a legit news agency for the RV industry. So that's who we recommend. But yeah, they got some great quotes from this Hershey show. Heather Leach said that their numbers were excellent for the show. She said, not record breaking, but very happy with the show. And she is from the PRVCA, which is the PA Recreational Vehicles Company. She said that the show was a bit of a mixed bag, but it went very well as far as sales went. So, that's pretty positive right there. Michael Happ is Winnebago Industries from Winnebago Industries, and he said that the retail activity at the show was good. Motorized was stronger than he expected, and towables was in line with expectations. So motorized vehicles right now, if it's not a small Class C or a B, is struggling. Like Class A's across the board are struggling, and anything like luxury, like a big Class A luxury, is really hurting right now. just the fact that they thought that the retail activity for the show was good and the motorized was stronger than expected is a good sign. Ember had probably had the best quote as far as on a positive side. And they said that the show was record breaking for them. Quality attendees ready to buy. And that's the impression that I was getting at the show too. Like quality attendees. I don't know if I would word it that way, but yeah, they were educated. They were ready to make a purchase. They were serious buyers at the show.
Yeah, and I think Ember has
Yeah.
the like smaller luxury towables, which would be kind of what is expected in this market, I think.
Yeah, they do have some nice little towables. But the fact that they said it was like record breaking for them, this is only Ember's third year, Sean? 4 years possibly. They're a newer manufacturer, 4 years tops,
yeah.
I would say. But yeah, the fact that that's good though. They're maybe in their 4th year and that this was a record breaking show for them. That's a great sign. Marcus Lemus from Camping World, he might not have been as excited. He said the traffic overall was fair. They only brought 2 displays this year instead of 3. They still have a massive footprint though at that show. When I would not have guessed that they only had, I would not have guessed that they downsized their display. I thought they looked just as big as they did before, but they said that they only had 2 displays this year instead of 3.
You know, I drove by the Camping World that's close to here a couple weeks ago, and their lot is packed. And I don't know if it's like all maintenance RVs or if they're sales RVs, but there's a ton of RVs there.
If they're for sales, that's another good time to buy. Just like anything else, even when buying a car, like if you go to a lot and they have a lot to choose from and you buy something from the lot, you're going to get a much better deal than wanting to buy a pre-ordered or, ordering your vehicle and not even custom. Say you just say they got the RV you want, but it's not the color you want, man, you'll get a much better price on that RV that you don't want the color of because it's on their lot already. The same RV in a different color, if you have to order it, is going to be much, much more expensive. They want to move the things that are on their lot. So if you find a dealership that has a lot on their lot, most likely you're going to probably get a pretty good deal. General RV, which is a dealer, they seem to feel kind of similar to Camping World. They said that the retail coaches were at a similar level from last year and that the attendance felt pretty flat overall to them. I will say, so just because the numbers were down a little bit this year, Sean, I think I failed to mention that the numbers are up from 2023. RV industry is still running strong overall. Just because the numbers are down a little bit this year compared to last year, they're still up from the year before. Just kind of talking a little bit about like what's selling and what's not. I think all the brands are probably going through the same thing. I don't think one brand is standing out more than another brand. Motorized RVs, like you heard earlier, slightly stronger demand than expected, but those high-end luxury motorhomes are slowing for sales. And that's not just one brand. That's all the brands. Now, I guess there are some brands that's all they do. I'm trying to think like Prevost Prevost doesn't actually make, now I'm going to show my ignorance here, Sean, and you'll have to correct me. Does Prevost actually make an RV or do manufacturers purchase the Prevost bus and turn it into an RV?
I don't know. I think maybe both.
Maybe both. Okay. Okay. So somebody like that, maybe a company like that that's using that Prevost chassis, their numbers are probably hurting because only high end for them. You can't find a entry level Prevost. Somebody like Winnebago that makes something like our coach, a Vista. I know Winnebago does not like when I say that the Vista is entry level, but it is their cheapest Class A motorhome. So I would still consider that their entry level, even if it is more expensive or on a higher end than somebody else's. I still consider it their entry level, but they don't like when I say it's entry level. The Vista still does pretty well for Winnebago. But I know their higher end models for the Class A do not sell as well as they once did. So
yeah, and I think that probably has a lot to do with the interest rates. Like a lot of people don't have $600,000 to drop on an RV without doing some sort of financing. And I'm sure the amount that you have to finance for one of those, it's a lot of extra money that you're willing to put down in terms of payments. So maybe that's why those high-end ones aren't doing what they were before.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, Sean, because when Sabrina and I were walking around the show, we noticed that the dealers will put the show price of the RV, and then they would also put what your payments could be. And I'm sure they put these payments on there thinking that, oh, this looks so much better than this big price. Sabrina and I looked at these payments and then worked it out that it was for like 20 years. And that terrified us. We were like, oh my goodness, they're talking about a small travel trailer costing $600 a month for 20 years. And we're like, that's a lot of money when you add it up that way. Or worse yet, when you looked at Class A motorhome that was not on the higher end, costing $1,200 a month. We were like, oh my goodness, we could never, that would terrify us to have a $1,200 payment for 20 years. I mean, we saw some that were higher than our mortgage, easily over $2,000. And we were like, I don't think this is the right strategy here. I don't think this is the numbers that you should be advertising. When somebody looks at this and they do the math, you're not going to scare them away. Just give them the number. Just give them the total number. So I'm glad that you mentioned that about the interest rate and how much that could be affecting their decision.
Although if the show was this week, maybe it would be a little different because I think interest rates went down a little bit this
Oh.
week. So maybe that would have changed some things, just a week difference.
Isn't that crazy? Just how fast things change. Yeah. So anybody listening now, you might have better interest rates than not just the time of this recording, but definitely from the time that the show took place. So we also got some more information that, towables were steady, no breakout gains. And the high-end luxury is just feeling that interest rate pressure. And the mid-range price points, I think, still cause a little bit of caution for people. It's right at that teeter point. They're like, oh, they might really like the rig, but they may not like the payments on that rig.
I think you saw some cool aftermarket or OEM things. You had mentioned when I talked to you about this Furrion air conditioner that looked pretty new, that sounded promising.
That was the steel shower for me, was that Furrion AC unit. We walked into a coach, and I cannot remember what brand RV it was. Oh, it's called Vibe. And they had a Furrion AC unit in their travel trailer, and it was a decent-sized travel trailer. I want to say 27 feet. And they had the door open, and we walked in, and it still felt ice cold in this travel trailer, 27 feet, single AC with the door open. And I put my hand up to the AC vent, and that air was so cold. It was so cold that I started asking the guy just about the Furrion AC and not so much about the rest of the travel trailer. And then I went over to Lippert, who owns Furrion now, and was talking to them about how it works. And they said it is a 18,000 BTU. It's called a Cube or Chill Cube, made by Furrion. It has a variable compressor. And the way they described that to me was that the compressor never actually has to turn off. It can slow down and it can speed up depending on how much output it needs. And they said over a long period of time, like at a full day of running, it will use less energy than one that would have to stop and restart. Everybody knows when an AC starts up, it kind of has that harsh startup, and there's even products out there. I have one on my AC called a soft start or easy start that kind of helps smooth out that hard start. But this has a variable compressor. And one thing I didn't ask them, and I'll have to find out, is there must be at some point though that it shuts off completely. Like if you're got your AC set for 70, it goes down to 65. I would imagine at that point, the AC's got to completely turn off. Even if it's a variable speed and it lowers the compressor rate to a minimum, you still wouldn't want to get it any colder at that point. So it must turn off at some point. I just don't know when that system actually turns off, turns on. But man, I was blown away by that. No pun intended. Blown away by that AC unit. It was very, very impressive. I would like that to be my next air conditioner in my RV. And then no standout. Nothing else really caught my attention as much as that did, but like I said, a lot of lithium batteries coming standard now in RVs, even at the more reasonable price points. Like it's not just a luxury item or a high-end feature. Also, more solar ports, more solar ready. I feel like off-grid was definitely a theme at this show also. I know Winnebago was promoting their new Travato to be able to go off grid for several days, the Revel being able to go off for like 7 days. So I know that ability to off grid, whether that be out in the middle of nowhere or maybe at a harvest host. But yeah, off grid capability was definitely something that is, I think, just kind of here to stay.
Kenny, going back to that AC unit, did it come standard in that RV?
I believe it was standard in that RV. Yep. I think it was standard in all those vibes. I don't think that was an upcharge. I am 90% sure it was that was the AC unit that they just happened to be using. Yeah, that 18,000 BTU AC. And it is able to be, for anybody listening and you're wondering, it is able to be ducted. So you buy it as is, and then if you need it to be ducted, they sell a kit that you would install to make it a ducted AC. But they're all designed to be, I don't know what you would call it, non-ducted, but they make a kit to turn all their ACs into a ducted AC. It is the information I've received from them at the Lippert booth. Anyway, that's the way they explained it to me. It's kind of like a kit that's sold separate. So the AC itself isn't very expensive. It's under $1,000. But if you do want it to be ducted, then I think it was like a 200 to 250 kit that you would add on to it, which I didn't think was bad. I mean, I think that's a pretty cool way to do it, actually. If you don't need it to be ducted, you just buy the chill cube. If you need ducted, they sell a kit for it. I bet you for manufacturing, that really helps them. They're all being built the same coming down the line. So I bet you for manufacturing, that kind of cuts cost. And I thought at under $1,000 for a 18,000 BTU, that's a huge AC unit for an RV. Back in the day, 15,000 was a big deal. So yeah, the fact that they're all the way up to 18,000 now, that's really nice.
Kenny, now we're going to jump over to the state of RVing, and I still can't believe these numbers. The RV shipments up around 14% in quarter one of 2025 versus Q1 of 2024. Towables up 17% year over year. That just seems unbelievable to me.
Yeah. And again, Sean, we got to go back. We've been saying this for a little while, but it must be the truth that we have a hard time believing this. When I'm talking to dealers, I work a lot of shows. When I'm talking to these dealers at the shows, they don't make it sound like they are killing it. They make it sound like people are tighter with their money. They're making more educated buying choices. They're not, compared to, not anybody was making bad decisions before, compared to the fact that they were at one time selling over MSRP price. If you didn't purchase that RV that you saw in the lot, somebody else would probably purchase it that same day. That's not the case anymore. So the fact that these numbers are still, something just doesn't jive. Something just doesn't make sense to me from what I'm seeing at the lots, what I'm hearing from the dealers, and these numbers.
Yeah, I don't quite get it either. And they're saying the market size is projected to be 50 billion by 2030, which is up 15 billion from what it is now. I mean, that's
Yeah,
huge.
that's a big difference. Overland market is, this already happened, so we know this is true, but the overlanding market has already increased 50% in 2025 compared to 2024. And maybe some of that is spilling into the RV market. Maybe they're borrowing some of those numbers from the overlanding market. I mean, they are a very similar market. Like somebody who RVs could easily say, well, I overland, and somebody that overlands could call themselves an RVer. So maybe that's part of it too. I don't know. These numbers just don't, something's not adding up to me. And maybe we need to do a deeper dive into what the numbers are saying compared to what's the real world, what are we seeing in the real world?
Yeah, and then as far as consumer trends, I think we've touched on younger RVers in several previous episodes. Remote workers, you see a lot of RVs now with the built-in office space or desk space, which is really nice. Smaller rigs, hence Ember doing so well at Hershey. And then off-grid and affordable features, which you talked about with the solar and lithium, making them more, you can stay off-grid longer with probably fresh water being your limiting factor now instead of power. And then tech integration, which I'm not a big fan of tech in the RV, but I know you are, and I know a lot of people are. So that's really, really taking off too. And then I think this is the key maybe to the RV sales numbers, that maybe we're just not seeing it this way, but they're selling a lot more sort of value or economically viable models instead of the high-end luxury or even the mid-grade luxury brands.
Yeah, I gotta agree with everything there. I do, like you said, Sean. I like the tech stuff. I mean, I think the last tech thing I included in my RV, I don't know if it would be tech, is I now have the keyless entry for RV that we just punch a code and we get in, and that has made our RV feel a lot newer too. And then of course, we got the smart thermostats and lithium batteries. What I wonder too, Sean, now that lithium batteries is becoming more of the standard instead of an option, I would imagine that helps with making things a little bit more affordable. I feel like once something becomes a standard, yes, they're going to increase the price. But once it becomes the standard, I feel like overall it lowers the price because now everybody has to chip in and pay for that. Instead of it being an option, now you're paying premium for that one off, or maybe they only made 10 that year with the lithium battery. But now that they're all doing the lithium, I would imagine that's got to lower the pricing a little bit also, making these features more affordable.
And I know it was one of my fears going into RVing was
Oh,
battery maintenance and things like that.
hmm.
So that pretty much neglects that fear right there. That cancels it out, that the lit the lithium are no maintenance.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the one thing that the industry, I'll say that the Hershey show, maybe even the industry too, I think they're not taking all the information or doing something wrong with the information. And I'm just one person. So I could be the one that's wrong. But I think, I know the trend was these smaller RVs, the smaller Class Cs, and the vans are still really popular and not so much on the bigger vehicles. But from working the overland shows, those families, the overland show is a little bit of a younger show. Those families are getting older. They're now having kids. Those families are growing, and they're looking for bigger vehicles. But I will say, when they're looking for a bigger vehicle, it does fall into that smaller C. So I still think the small C is where it's at. I think the small C will probably be the new trend where we had van life and I probably sound like I'm contradicting myself, but I think those small families are growing into a small C, away from vans and into small Cs. I could be wrong about that, but that's what I'm hearing from the show. I mean, somebody at the show recently asked me if Winnebago made anything that was under 25 feet long that could seat five and sleep five. And surprisingly enough, they do make something. It's the Echo on a Sprinter chassis. And I said, at the moment, just one vehicle. And she said to me, she's like, well, I wish that they made more because you'd be surprised how many small families like us, families of five, are looking for a small RV like that. I don't know how often that case is, especially when you're looking for a rig that small. Most people, I don't think, want to be, I don't want to use the word cramped, but that's a lot of people in a 25-foot RV. I feel like that's a weekender thing. And they were making it sound like they were going to live in it full time. And I was just thinking to myself, man, I believe, me personally, that's a lot for full timing, five people in a 25-foot RV. But you know what, Sean? We got plenty of people that like two, couples with two dogs live in a van full time. And I think that's too much too. I think that's a lot full time. I like my space apparently, even though I am an RVer, I still like my space.
Yeah, and then we get into like the industry challenges. And the first one, of course, we already touched on is the high interest rates. But I would
Hmm.
add to that another thing related to that that I'm hesitant about. Like, we're looking for a new RV, a motorized right now. But the one thing that's keeping me from really doing it is the fact that I live in a state that has personal property tax that you pay
Mm.
every year on your vehicle. And that's just really high right now. So I'm hesitant just to not only financing, which I would try really hard to pay cash for it, but the personal property tax is another thing that keeps me from buying that's related to the financial pain of purchasing.
Yeah, another great point because my home base is Arizona. Same thing. We pay property tax on our RV. And the nice thing about having a used RV is, and it depreciating every year, is that my property tax on it goes down. Buying a new RV and paying that brand new property tax on it would not be fun because it's a yearly thing. Like you think it's just like you pay it, one time type of tax, but it's every year you pay this property tax on the vehicles. I also wanted to highlight, you had asked me earlier about trends and stuff like that and what I saw that was really standing out. You know what I noticed a lot this year, Sean, that I never noticed before is just how many people are promoting 4x4 or all-wheel drive vehicles. There were a lot of Super Cs that are now 4x4. And man, I've never seen so many 4x4 RVs until at one place other than the Overland show, but for a Hershey show, a lot of like Renegades and Dynamax are all promoting their 4x4 capable Super Cs. And it also had me thinking about a company called Quigley 4x4. They're actually working on making, and I have permission to tell you this, making a 4x4 ProMaster. So they'll be able to take a Dodge ProMaster van, which is a very popular chassis for van lifers, and they'll be able to convert that from a front wheel drive system to I don't know if it's a 4-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. It does matter. I don't think it's a 4x4, but it could be. I'm going to have to talk to Quigley when I see them next and see if they'll give me a couple more details on what is the system. Is it all-wheel drive? Will it be 4x4? Even at all-wheel drive, man, that is going to make a lot of people happy that they can take their van and convert it to an all-wheel drive system. So yeah, 4x4 all-wheel drive, that was really, really popular at the Hershey show this year. That was another trend that I was seeing.
Yeah, and then the other challenges and risks, I think we already pretty much hit on in this episode. The dealer service pressures. There's inventory, tech shortages. The dealers have to make their margins, or they're going to lose money.
Mhm.
So the prices. It depends on if they have a lot of RVs on their lot, they'll sell it a little cheaper and just make a little bit versus a couple years ago when they were able to. You basically were in a bidding war with somebody else to get the RV you wanted. So I think the challenges are pretty well known. One that I think might turn the corner with the new Trump administration is the emissions and environmental rules. I think those are going to be on hold for the next few years, whether you like it or not. I mean, I'm not saying I have my opinions, but I'm not saying what they are, but just that, that may not be as much of an issue for the next few years.
Yeah, and I know like companies like Cummins, I think they were working hard to clean up, I guess, the generator and stuff like that. I wonder if that now does that burden is that burden now taken off of them for their chassis and for their generators? Cummins makes a lot of diesel engines for the motorhomes too. Yeah, I think that's going to play a big part in the future of RVing as well. Yeah, for sure. I'd like to get a dealer on the show, and I know we've had dealers in the past. I'm wondering, like, does this new RV market create a complexity for them that they didn't have in the past, or is this just part of the growth as far as training their techs on lithium batteries and Bluetooth capabilities and just wireless controls, like all this new tech going into the RVs? That's got to put a little bit of a strain on their, not just for their service, but for their salespeople too. That, now their salespeople need to understand all this new technology coming out as well. It'd be great to maybe get somebody on the show and talk about how their training process goes from the sales end and on the service end of things because of new tech.
Yeah, I imagine it's a different skill set probably that you need to do some of that. It's probably a lot of IT type stuff for some of those electronic things.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. The bottom line here is that RV is not dying. According to the numbers, it's stronger than ever. We're kind of resetting a post-pandemic boom. The brands that I think are going to do the best are going to be ones that are focusing on value because that's important to people. There's definitely shoppers out there that want to buy. The ones that are making new innovation actually including features that people want, like that. Man, Sean, I'm telling you, that AC unit blew me away. I walked in, I was like, I gotta have this. This is the AC I need in my RV. So yeah, having features that are actually important to the consumer. Sabrina and I did see some really cool tech and features that we like and that we want to implement into our RV, or that we would want at least our new RV to have. One thing I didn't really talk upon is that a lot more safety features. I saw that as being something that the RV industry is focusing on. I saw a couple Class A motorhomes that even in their dinette seating had like the harness latch for like a child seat, and that's something that we never seen in a Class A before. That was just something that RV manufacturers never really did. The chassis all now have adaptive cruise and blind spot monitor. Even Winnebago in their Class A gas motorhome has adaptive cruise with lane assist and hill start assist. That's these in a Class A motorhome. So this is something else that I think that the RV industry is trying to do as well. I feel like the RV industry is always lagging behind the automotive industry. They're the first to come out with safety features, but I think at least the RV industry, to me, appears as if it is trying to catch up a little bit.
I would agree with you, Kenny. I'm glad that RV manufacturers are taking those safety features into their planning, and things like adaptive cruise and blind spot detection, I feel like are very important because number one, you don't need a special license to drive these, and they're big, and all the safety you can have as far as, what's beside you and what's coming up fast in front of you is, I think, a big, big benefit.
Yeah. Just kind of looking ahead here, I think we're going to see more safety features. I think we're going to see more all-wheel drive capability, more tech. Lithium and solar is just going to be, the new norm. Heather Leach, that we quoted earlier, she's looking forward to a great 2026. She believes it's going to be a good year. I would agree. I think things are lining up for 2026 to be a really good year. Less restrictions. I think the only thing we got to do is bring those interest rates down a little bit, and 2026 could be the best year in the last 5 years for RVing, possibly. We don't know for sure, but that's honestly the way that's the way it's looking to us, or looking to me, I should say. I don't want to speak for everybody on the show. So if you're out shopping, take a look at those rates. Try to find out if the rates are going up or down. I do believe now is a good time to buy. You got cash in hand, or at least can be able to put down a large down payment. Find something on the lot that you like. I think you're going to get a really good deal on a new or used RV at the moment. We still recommend getting a certified RV inspector, have them look over the RV, even if it's new. I think it really helps. Not only gives you peace of mind about that rig, but they're not going to have that emotional attachment that you might have to an RV. They're just going to give you the facts about an RV. Yeah, now's a great time. If you're shopping, man, now's the time to buy. This is a great time for RVing. I think, what's going to happen, Sean, is 2026, we may see more issues out of campgrounds, more traffic, and harder to get sites and all that.
Yeah, surprisingly, this year hasn't been difficult.
Not for me either. Yeah, it really hasn't been too bad. But it's all, just like when I'm giving somebody a tour of an RV and I'm showing them a smaller RV and they wish it had more storage, or I'm showing them a large RV with large storage, they wish it was easier to drive. Everything's trade-offs. So, if the market does great and they're selling like crazy, that's awesome. But then you don't have trouble at the campgrounds. It's all trade-offs. But overall, I think it was a really good show. Even though I was just there for the 2 days, I talked to people that stayed for the rest of the week. Every day got a little busier than last. So yeah, overall, I think it's a good show, and I think we are looking for a really good 2026 for RV.
Yeah, well, I think that about wraps it up. I want to thank Kenny for providing us all the information about the show, and I'm really sorry I missed it because they did have over 1,500 RVs there to look at, and I always like looking at RVs, and especially since we're shopping for one now, we really wanted to get up there and see the show. I guess for the listeners, I would like to know what would make you confident about buying a new RV, whether it's new to you as in used or brand new RV. What would make you confident in spending the money and buying a new RV either in 2025 or 2026. And we want to thank you for listening, and we appreciate if you leave a comment, if you like and subscribe. That always helps get the show out to new listeners. And we'll be back in 2 weeks with another great episode for you to listen to. Thanks, everybody. Safe travels.
Looking to get out there and stay out there? Battleborn Batteries lithium-ion batteries are here to power your RV, marine, and off-grid adventures. Designed as an easy drop-in replacement for traditional lead-acid batteries, these reliable solutions have 2 to 3 times the power, charge 5 times faster, are a fifth of the weight, and last 10 times longer. Offered in a variety of models in unique sizes and shapes, ranging from 50 amp hour to a robust 270 amp hour, and backed by a 10-year warranty. Battleborn batteries are built to fit your needs and power your experiences. On the road, on the water, and off the grid, reliable power is here. Check them out at battlebornbatteries.com.